Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina, and we are your hosts for our podcast, Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Women. We were inspired to create this podcast after pondering this question: what would a world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Our immediate way of being is to compare and judge, and when we do that, there's always someone losing. Depending on my point of view, I can either feel small or arrogant or dismissive. Those are the only two options from my perspective. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from our first impressions. So we invite you, the listener, to go beyond your first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner in everyone if we're willing to look. So today, we have our good friend Carol Horton with us, and we are so excited to have her introduce herself to us today. Carol, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, Carol, thanks so much for getting up early to be with us today.
You're welcome. So an introduction of myself.
Yeah,
Uh,
what would you like people to know about you?
what would I like people to know about me? Well, I am I was born and raised overseas, and my parents were expats for 25 years. So most of my siblings and I were born in Japan and then lived in Holland. I came here to the US when I was about 14 years old, and went to a boarding school up in the mountains of Ojai, California. Um, and that was a very magical experience for me. Actually, that was the beginning for me of my spiritual journeys that lasted through the rest of my life. Um, I was basically, it was a summer. I didn't feel like going and spending time with my poor grandmother who lived in LA at the time. So I stayed up at the boarding school and I was cleaning rooms, and I met Ram Dass and Krishnamurti, who were doing a 10-day workshop or intensive up there. I had no idea who they were. I was only 14 years old. Ram Dass, I actually met him in his room while cleaning it. He happened to come in. I don't know who he was, but he said something to me that was very profound that I to this day, and I'm 60 now, I will never forget. He just looked at me and he said, "I see you and I see your light." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm sorry, I do you need me to turn the light off in the room?" And that's one of my funny stories. Yeah. And he laughed, and he took me, basically he took me under his wing, and I helped him in my very young years with the Seva Foundation. Um, Krishnamurti was a very quiet man. I actually babysat his children, and he lived in Ojai, in the mountains of Ojai. And at the time, I think Ram was living in LA. But and then after that, years and years later, in Santa Cruz, California, I was living in Santa Cruz, California, and he showed back up into my life, and he was doing this whole thing for the Tibetan monks to, it was getting money together to bring more Tibetan monks into the US from India. And that launched me. He launched me in so many ways. He got a hold of me and he said, "Look, I want to do this event." He was going to have whirling dervishes, and he was going to do this talk, and he wanted me to put it together. So I put that together for him as an event. I coordinated the event in Santa Cruz, and like 2,000 people showed up. It was the craziest thing. And we raised all kinds of money for Ram Dass and for these Tibetan monks. And they gave me a very beautiful singing bowl as a thank you. And, one of the white silk scarves that they give you. And that launched me into becoming an event coordinator and getting into the tour and travel industry. And to this day, I am, part of the tour and travel industry. I work with National Geographic on their jet programs, and I'm basically what they call the advanced staff, and I coordinate everything before the jet lands with all of the passengers. So that's a very small bit of my life story. But at my age, we all have a big life story. Yeah.
Well, what is cool about what you're sharing is like the synchronicity, right? It's just like one leads to the other, leads to the other. And I was telling Christina just a moment ago how in awe I am by, like the sum of who I am. Right. And it's all the little pieces that led me to who I am today, like all the people I met, all the people that I worked with. So nobody can really claim, me to be the result of their work, because it's like the totality. And in the end, it's me, it's my seeking, right?
Right.
So I want to point that out for you, right? It was your seeking, your searching, your willingness, your openness.
Yeah.
And it's just so exciting.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, Carol, you've been pulled from such a young age to this spiritual path that you've been on. And it's like, it's so the synchronicity of it all is just so incredible. But ultimately, you were the one who created it, right? Like, you put yourself in the space to have those events happen. And so ultimately, consciously or unconsciously, you still made that happen, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. It reminds me of Carolyn Moss's sacred contracts, how we create these contracts before we even realize that we're doing it, whether you believe we came into this world with that, or whether we created that with unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever your belief system is around that. It's synchronicity, I think, has a lot to do with just, these choices that we have consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously made, and then our journey kind of flows from there. And a lot of people will say, well, what about that person sleeping under the bridge in a tent? Well, there's what's to say there's not something to learn there. It's all part of this process of growth, this process of understanding who we are and why we're here. Not that I don't know if we ever figured that part out, but there's just some profound lessons if we choose to turn that into a profound lesson. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Carol, some little things that you did not tell us in your biography. You are a mom. Do you want to speak about that?
I am. I have two boys. Yes. One's 25 and one's 16. And my 16-year-old, I had very late in life. I was 45 when I had him. And so I still shake my head and go, oh my God, I'm a 60-year-old grandmother. I should be a grandmother to this kid, But yeah, so it's and they bring their own beautiful challenges as all kids do. So yeah. I have two amazing boys. I got very lucky with that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And for me, you are also an amazing painter, artist, and like shaman and spiritual guru for so many of us. So
thank you.
So yeah.
Yeah. I do paint. I was selling my artwork for a little bit there, but I haven't done that for a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, that flows and weaves itself in and out of my life. Just depending on my level of creativity in the moment. Yeah, I gotta be honest about that. I've got a painting sitting over here that's hasn't been done for a while. Yeah.
You know what it reminds me, I remember reading in one of Brené Brown's books where it's like you're a mom dash artist dash, travel, whatever you call it. Like, so like we have a tendency to put ourselves in a label, and we're so many things, right? And each one at its own time, and each one fills us up at its own time. And how beautiful and powerful that is, right? Okay, right now I'm wearing that hat, and then I'm wearing the mom hat, and then or I wake up with it this morning I got a text from my daughter. It's like, okay, I'm wearing the mom hat right now, and then I sat down and started sewing, and I'm like, oh, I'm it's the creative hat right now, and now we're sitting here doing this podcast, right? It's like, and it's all of it, right? And it's just all those pieces and parts that make us so incredible, right? We're not just, you're talking about the homeless person, right? There's so much more to that person than just that person that is sleeping on the bridge, right? And we as humans have a tendency to forget that. So hence, part of our podcast too, right? It's just looking at, there's so much more, and we're each one unique. So thank you. Thank you. So
right.
Go ahead, Christina. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you've already shared a funny story with us. So what would you really want people to know about you? We know, like, that you grew up with, out of the country, that you're a designer, your mom, that you all those things. But what would you want people to really know about you? Like, if they really knew me, they would know.
I guess I would say if it's the interesting dichotomy in life that we all are. There's that part of me that's very gregarious, that's very out there, with people. I'm really good with people. I'm really, like I'm really good with getting in and coordinating and doing what I do. And then there's that part of me that's the hermit, and it's not one or the other, but there's two very big parts of me. It's like this outward part, and then there's this very inward, very private, very quiet part, and it's important for me to coordinate the two and dance with the two, and spend that precious time with myself to get to know who I am, because that's a constant journey, isn't it? I've been recently not recently, but in the last 5 years, I've been going through cancer, and then it metastasized. And, the journey for me hasn't been about, I've got cancer. It's been about, okay, body, what's going on? Like, what is it that I need to learn here? Like, what to go in and, it's like, go in and talk to yourself. Like, I don't think enough people really do that. And when you're like, what does that mean? It's like, go in. It's like, I go in and I have conversations with my cancer. It's like, what is it that you need? What is it that I need to know? What is it that you need from me in order for you to be okay, so you can release yourself from me? It's not this bad, horrible thing. It comes across as a bad, horrible thing, but everything needs to be heard, held, and loved. All of it, from a cellular level. We forget that we are cellular beings. We're not this body. We're this molecular structure. We're this energetic structure. And cancer is just part of our molecular structure. It's there, it's dormant for a lot of people who never experienced cancer, but it's there. So talk to it, like have a conversation with it. What does it need from you? What is the attention that you're lacking? And I'm not just talking about cancer. I'm just talking about all of our life experiences, good and bad, because we tend to only go in when something's not working, and then we're all excited when everything is working, or if we're flushing cash and we're flushing, and we think that's never going to shift. But life is ebb and tide, and we forget that because we're too busy surfing that wave, and we forget that it's going to crash and it's going to come in, and then it's going to ebb, and then you're going to get tumbled in that wave, and do you want to come back up being really excited because that was such a cool experience, or do you want to come back up and be afraid of the ocean and never want to get back in again, because that's life, so it's what would I want somebody to know about me? It's like, I don't think it's about what I want you to know about me. It's what I want you to know about you so that you can know me. Does that make sense? Okay, yeah, because we're all here. It's like what Deepak says, we're the micro of the macro, right? And so we're all in this together. All of our emotions, all of our love, our hate, our anger, our gratitude, all of it is the same, and it's just, how do you want to communicate with life? So I guess I'm bouncing that back.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful because it is that conversation, right? We're the drop and we're the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a choice. It's a choice, how to live it, and as you were talking, I was thinking, we went to the ocean yesterday and I got tumbled, right? And I noticed how hesitant I am, right? I put my feet in, I'm like, oh, but I'm not sure I dare yet to go completely in, right? And it's a choice, right?
Well, we don't like that feeling of feeling unbalanced, right? It's just we want to feel even keeled at all time, but we missed out on the highs then too, right? Like if we always want to, so
yeah. And being in control, right? That's something that runs most of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, if you're tumbled by the ocean, or if you have cancer, or there is not much control, right? It's I guess it invites you to rethink life, existence, everything, right? And it breaks you open. I mean,
it does. It breaks you open to a point where, like for me, my sense of control has changed, because there was a point there where I was thinking to myself, wow, I don't remember a time when I felt normal, where I felt healthy, where where something wasn't hurting or something, where I just felt good, and now coming, on the other side of that, it's like the control for me is I want to always feel this, whereas I feel good, like I feel healthy, I feel good, I feel like I can jump up and run around, and I even do something as simple as make my bed, so the control then becomes, for me, as it's changed, which cancer has radically changed it, it's staying healthy. You know what I mean? It's just it's staying, it's taking the supplements that I'm taking because it makes me feel better. you know. So when I had that choice of, do I want to do this or eat this or drink this, or do I want to stay in that place of balance and health and really feeling good, that's where it shifted for me. You know, it's like it's always choosing the really healthy way, the healthy route, you know, because at this point, like, you know, even a French fry throws me off, you know, because my body has become so sensitized, you know. So and then the gratitude is, oh, I'm healthy, you know. It's like, yeah, you know, and then other parts of your life starts becoming more healthy. Your friendships become more healthy. Your relationship with your children, your, you know, even your relationship, well, definitely your relationship with yourself when you're alone, you know. Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm inspired.
Yeah.
So what fills you up?
What fills me up?
What fills you up? Like, what gives you juice?
Mm,
Going.
traveling fills me. My work, you know. I think I'm pretty darn blessed in that you know, I've never gotten up and didn't want to go to work, you know. It's because of what I do, you know. I travel all over the place. I get to, what fills me is meeting people in different cultures, meeting people that were, you know, the history is completely different, right down to the landscape, you know, and really understanding different cultures and understanding the way people think from different cultures, you know, and just to really understand that there's, you know, there's no prejudice. You know what I mean? It's like there is prejudice, but it's just it's such a silly thing, you know, because people feel me on some level, you know, and getting to know and really having deep conversations with you know, with people, and that, I think that fills me the most, you know. Um, Although I'm not one to just go out and run around and find people, you know. You know, it's there's that interesting dichotomy. It's like sometimes, you know, I'm really comfortable around a lot of people, and sometimes I'm out, you know, exit stage left, you know. But definitely what fills me is having those deep conversations. Yeah. Yeah.
Really cool. And giving yourself that quality time by yourself too, right? That's filling your batteries too, right there. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's a saying that I read, and I don't know it 100%, but you know, it talks about just, you know, I'm a mermaid. I hang out in the tide pools. They're really pretty, but I need the deep water in order to survive, you know. So it's like, and I like hanging out with other mer people. Yeah.
I want to hang out with mer people.
Yeah, you know, people that dive, oh, you're mer people, you know, people that just dive deep, people that want to look further, you know, and people that are just open to, like, well, I don't really agree with you, but that's a thought, you know, and here's my thought, you know, and how do we bring our thoughts together to have this cooperative understanding and respect for each other. And I think that that's what's really missing right now in this nation, which is so completely divided. You know what I mean? And that's important, you know. It's to be more open and not so self-absorbed in whatever your belief system is, you know, because it's so much more than that. Yeah.
Amen to that. So, Kara,
Mhm.
what would you say your superpower is?
Surviving. Yeah, my superpower. Yeah, my superpower is just getting through my own shit. Excuse my language, it's just get over it, get through it, and move on. It's just I won't give myself time to fester in ideas or thoughts that don't serve me in any way. I just don't have time for it. I used to, I think we all used to. I think this is the beauty of it's like we look in the mirror and it's like, oh my God, I look so old. But at the end of the day, I love being the age that I'm at, because it's taken 60 years of ups and downs and lefts and rights, and getting into crazy toxic thinking and getting stuck there, and then wondering why everything else is falling apart, only to step back and go, oh, you know okay, I got it, so to be in that place where the superpower is I got it. I still have more to get, but I got it. I got it. Thank you. Lesson learned. Next, moving forward. It's just always just moving forward. Yeah,
It
and
feels like
giving myself permission.
feels like willingness and courage. Like that's the words I hear, like willingness to look and the courage to face it, right? It's like, because there's no other way out, right? And then there's some curiosity in the mix too, because if you're not curious, you're going to stay wherever you are. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So if you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and
it would
why?
be the quality I want to wake up, to it's like the metaphor is a lot of people are allowing somebody else to drive their ship, and they're underneath sleeping, and it's like it's time to wake up and see what's going on around you. It takes a community to shift a world, but it takes one person to wake up, and if one and part of the waking up is just, more compassion, please. It's just be compassionate, be open to understanding other people and their different quirks, and acceptance. It's we need more of that in this country. I see it, in other countries. I see a lot of it's very different. I see a lot of people that are just very awake and very community oriented, and their extended family is large, and then it's like I was watching this whole thing on Netflix about, just people that live to be 100, and they're calling it like the people that live in the blue zones. It's like, can we make the planet a blue zone? Like all of it? Can we all wake up and I mean, there are some countries where there are no retirement homes because everybody's taking care of the elderly. That's somebody that's woken up. That's a community that has woken up, So that would be the wand.
I was inspired watching that documentary too. Yeah.
Did you watch it? Yeah, it was really
I
good.
did.
Yeah. It's like, I want to
Yeah.
get there, How do I get there?
Well, but
Yeah.
I also love that there's the communities that are trying to take action to get there, right? And that's
Yeah.
inspiring too, to that we're not all lost if we don't live in the blue zone. We can actually really actively work on that. So that's
Creating
inspiring.
our own blue zone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Carol, here's our, if you could do anything or be anything when you grow up, or anything you wanted to be or do or anything, this is a like question. What would you want to do, be, or have if you could do anything?
If I could do anything,
Like if time and money weren't questions, like
oh, well, that's easy. I would if I had like let's say if I had like no problem money, like if I had I would love to buy a huge chunk of land, put houses on it, put everybody I love on it, have a community garden. Everybody owns their own home, have a community space. Once a week, we all get together. Some family makes the dinner, you know, communal living that's not communal, like you're on top of each other. That blue zone that I'm talking about. I want to create my own blue zone. Yeah, where
all right,
we're
I'm
taking
in. I'm
care.
joining the blue zone.
We're taking care of the elderly, we're taking care of the children, we're all like in a cooperative, and when things go awry, which it always does, ebb and tide, that everybody can sit down and have a conversation about it. Just an active community, it's like where we're all growing our own food, and everybody is bringing their gifts, and those that don't know what their gifts are can learn what their gifts are, and that would, especially for me, because it's and Martina, it's like you and Martina, you two are extremely close, but you don't live anywhere near each other, and that sucks after a while, it's like,
It does.
especially as we get older, we just, I mean, bless my husband, but, two people living on top of each other for the last 20 years, and, not so much, I want to be able to just walk out and go to the neighbor who is a friend that I've known for 30 years. And, there's this love connection, but it's like, the love is, it's not defined differently than what most Americans see as love. It's just, yeah, I want to create my own blue zone. If I had all of the money in the world, if I were in the billions, this is what I really liked about Jimmy Buffett. It's like I mean, that man made billions. Like when he passed, he was like worth like $1 billion. That man created cooperative communities all through Florida, all through Tennessee, all through South Carolina. Like he totally gave back, and there were like these Jimmy Buffett communities, and like everybody were musicians, or, or and these are like really interactive communities. Like I've looked into Jimmy Buffett's communities, and they're, it's like, yeah, I want that, like it's I not only did I love that man's music, but it just, he was the person that made the billions and did a lot of some things to help his community, so it would be comparable to that. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm inspired. I think we got some work to do.
Yeah, we do.
And and it's beautiful because mostly, like what you're sharing, mostly we hear about people who abuse, right? Who have a lot of money and then just cause a lot of mischief and cause a lot of bad with it. But there's plenty of people who cause so much good. And unfortunately, we only hear about the bad apples. We hardly ever, when I was in Amsterdam, in Holland, and we went to the international court, right? And they were talking about Carnegie and how Carnegie, big part of his money he spent to build libraries because people would then read and learn to understand, right? That was his purpose in that. And it's so beautiful, right? It's just really beautiful. So I'm so excited. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, wow, right?
Yeah.
How cool would that be? And then let's make it happen, right? So that's the next step. So thank you, Carol. Thank you for taking time out to be here bright and early with us. And thank you, whoever is here listening and watching. I hope you loved it. I hope you're inspired. And if you are, please leave us a review or share. And please always remember that you are extraordinary. You rock. Until next time. Christina and Carol, do you want to say bye?
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.